they're the biggest in the West. Walk around your corner, seesaw you roll, left narrow line, and then you weave around, you roll. Ride the train, ride the train. Swing your lady, promenade again. Sleeping in a brake van when it rains. Ride the train.
Well, when I see a steam train go by, there's something about the locomotive that, well, it's hard to explain. It just gets me in here. And after working years and years on them, I think of what are the people of today missing with all the modern contraptions, where here is a machine that man really controls, not a machine controlling man.
I worked for the New South Wales Railways for 40 years, and I think the thing that fascinates me most is the wheels, the motions, pistons and valves. To me, that is the heart of the locomotive.
Steam has a romance all of its own. There's no other machine, I don't think, endeared itself to the hearts of men or made so many men return to their childhood, I guess you'd say, with small trains and big trains. We run all over the place chasing them and photographing them.
So they definitely get to you. Well, I've always enjoyed them, and that's kept my sanity for quite a long time.
Ride the train, swing your lady, promenade again. Sleeping in a brake van when it rains. Ride the train, ride the train.
Since the time of the first wheel, man has been fascinated with the machines of men. But there is an awesome magic surrounding a steam train that weaves a spell and captures the imagination unlike any other of his creations. Perhaps it's this almost mystical attraction that seduces and excites the primal emotion in man, often to the point of obsession. Certainly, the passion for steam was not lost with the passing of the great steam train era, a period of romance and adventure, a time when steam was king.
Ride the train, ride the train. Swing your lady, promenade again. Sleeping in a brake van when it rains. Ride the train, ride the side space train. Square, get going there.
It was the obsessive love for steam that provided the essential inspiration and resilience to restore Australia's great zigzag railway as a working example of steam history. Originally built in the 1860s, zigzag is similar in construction to other great mountain railway systems built during this era: the Andes in Peru, the Himalayas in India, and the American Rockies, some still in use today. The restored tourist railway begins at Clarence Station, then zigzags 150 metres down into the valley towards the city of Lithgow. Located 120 kilometres west of Sydney on the western escarpment of the Blue Mountains, zigzag sits amongst the most spectacular mountain scenery Australia offers, a region visited by more than 1 million tourists each year. The unusual blue colour of the mountains is attributed to the sun's rays scattering and reflecting on tiny eucalyptus droplets released by the gum leaves. From its earliest days, extension of the Sydney settlement was hemmed to the west by this challenging mountain barrier. Many attempted to cross these ranges to the rich western plains, but it was finally explorers Blaxland, Lawson and Wentworth who in 1813 blazed a route across the ridges, which became the first roads for horse-drawn transport. By 1863, rail transport had been introduced from Sydney to the foot of the Blue Mountains, and many, including the explorer Wentworth himself, felt that these ranges would never be crossed by steam. Despite much opposition, John Whitten, Engineer-in-Chief of the New South Wales Railways, maintained this barrier could and must be crossed by rail. His first proposal was for a system of tunnels to climb and descend the steep eastern and western escarpments. However, costs were prohibitive. Forced to economise, he decided that if tunnels could not be included in his design, then he would zigzag his railway, up one side and down the other.
Oh, yeah. We're down. And at no time did the fingers leave the hand today.
I've had experience with all sorts of engines, but I'm talking about steam engines, right from the early models to the later models. I thoroughly enjoyed my driving, and but more the firing than I did the driving. I prefer to be fireman than driver. I think there's an art in maintaining that steam pressure there, and if you can maintain that steam pressure there, the driver can do his work.
How you doing?
Hello, Bobby. I'm driver.
Been involved on that, please.
It was a hard, dirty job. We used to enjoy getting there and getting to your destination. You was hot, dirty, stinking, rotten. But geez, you got the dirt off you as quick as you could down to your collar line anyhow. Grab your bag, get on your bike, head down to the pub, you and your mate. There'd be other crews there, just got home ahead of you, or other fellas coming in behind you. There was nothing better than a schooner, just to wash the throat down, get the dirt out of you. It was never any good for cleaning your ears and that, but geez, I used to always judge railway blokes by their dirty ears and around their eyes.
A zigzag construction enables a railway to abruptly change height in the shortest possible distance. The line is laid in the form of a Z, with the reversing points where a train doubles back on itself to climb or descend to the next level. Compared to the zigzag at Lithgow, Lapston's little zigzag on the eastern escarpment was easy to construct.
We are now at the site of the old Lucasville platform. This is at the reversing station between the top and the middle road of the little zigzag. This is where the trains, under certain conditions, would have the locomotives haul or pull the train to their destination. The passenger platform was built here for picnickers and tourists.
Looking east towards Sydney from Lucasville, two viaducts can be seen. The first, completed in 1867, form part of Little Zigzag's bottom road. This is where the eastern ascent began. A second viaduct, which carries the present Western Rail line, replaced Bottom Road in 1913.
We are at the junction now of the middle and top roads, and on the lower side, trains would propel up the grade into Lucasville station, some 150 metres behind, and then pull forward up the top road towards the west. The grades in this area are all a constant 1 in 42, meaning that each 42 feet the track rises or falls 1 foot.
Lapston Zigzag was replaced by a tunnel deviation in 1892 after 25 years of service. Eventually, Bottom Road became part of the Great Western Highway. Now, upon the mountains, Whitton's railway continued along the ridges, for all practical reasons, following the trail blazed by Blaxland, Lawson and Wentworth. Today, the improved line across the mountains follows the same route. It was originally a single track with passing loops at Springwood, Blue Mountain, which was renamed Lawson, and at Weatherboard, the first terminus which was open for traffic in 1867 and later renamed Wentworth Falls.
Sometimes you'd be in the barracks, anything up to 18 hours. Heading home, you've been away roughly 30 hours before you start to go back. And then you're on a trip for another 11 hours. If you was lucky, it might be 14. You might get relieved at Katoomba going home to Lithgow, then you get in a dirty old brake van, ride the brake van home. It'll be covered in ashes, dirt, bloody filthy. Excuse me. Anyhow, we used to put up with it. That was part of our life, and I don't know how we done it, but we did. We survived, and I think we're all the better for it, because we were men that worked in harmony.
And anyway, the driver was agitated, and he's sitting on the seat like this and tapping the gauge and looking at the water and going back, and then he said to me, "You better do better than this." I said, "I can't do any bloody better than I'm doing." And with that, he went over and he grabbed the shovel, and I went straight out the side there, raced along the footplate, and him after me. Around the front of the engine, and we're going up Boddington Hill, up to Wentworth Falls, climbing the mountains. I come down the side, through this side, and I come in here, and I raced over here and grabbed this coal pig. That's the silly old bugger was come round there, and I says, "Come on, you bastard, you have a go." Anyway, with that, he looked at me, and he didn't know whether I was going to hit him. If he had come to me, I think I'd have dropped dead, fair dinkum.
From Wentworth Falls, the single line snaked towards Mount Victoria, passing through crushers, now known as Katoomba.
What does a P class say leaving Leura?
Well, the P class, I would say that when it's leaving Leura, it'd say, I think I can, I think I can, I think I can.
Well, what does the 57 class say leaving Leura?
Oh, I don't know about leaving Leura, but coming up into Leura...
Yes, coming up into Leura.
It would be saying, "This ain't Katoomba, this ain't Katoomba, this ain't Katoomba." But of course, you liken that to the beat of the engine when the engine is going, an ordinary engine, two-cylinder engine. When she's going up the hill, she's saying, "I think I can, I think I can, I think I can." And when she gets over the top of the hill, she says, "I thought I could, I thought I could, I thought I could."
Yeah.
And they said, and then of course this 57 class, you know, she's got that distinct beat. "This ain't Katoomba, this ain't Katoomba."
That's it, yes. That's precisely how they sound, isn't it?
Yeah, that's
precisely.
right.
Yes, to go out like I did on that last trip, that was emotional to me. I upset easy, and I could have cried, really, I could have. But that was a proud thing. I thought it was the ultimate trip. You've achieved all you could have achieved, and to get lined up on that job with the 38er, that was damn beautiful to me. I felt like a king of the road for a day. Yeah, it really was.
From Mount Victoria, which also was a temporary terminus, the line headed towards Clarence, where a station and tunnel were constructed. Clarence being the last mountain station before reaching the Great Zigzag at Lithgow.
After leaving the Clarence Tunnel, the track proceeds basically west on a falling grade of 1 in 42 feet for 5.5 kilometres to Top Point's reversing station.
Construction of the Lithgow Zigzag began in 1866, with the line from Clarence to Top Points becoming known as Top Road.
On my right, over in the distance, you'll see number 1 viaduct. Trains coming from Sydney travelled over this viaduct on the top road behind me to Top Points. They then proceeded down the middle road, over number 2 viaduct immediately below me, and number 3 viaduct, through a short tunnel and on to Bottom Point's reversing station.
The Great Zigzag presented enormous survey and engineering problems, with much of the construction work performed manually. At one stage, there were over 700 men working simultaneously in over 30 locations.
On the middle road, we have a location known as Engineers Lookout. This was where the contractor in charge, Mr. Higgins, had a seat hewn from the sandstone to command a view of a large amount of work being carried out on the construction of the zigzag.
On the 18th of October, 1869, the 9 a.m. passenger train from Mount Victoria continued on, for the first time, down the western escarpment of the Blue Mountains. Without official ceremony, Lithgow's Great Zigzag was opened, an engineering achievement and tourist attraction that was to be recognised worldwide. At this time, Australian railways were dominated by British locomotives, until 1877, when a test across the mountains proved American engines to be better suited to the grades. Inclement mountain weather, steep grades and poor visibility made train working at Zigzag hazardous and a real test for both engine and driver.
Yes, those machines, as big as they were, I think they had a heart. You could sense if anything was going to go wrong with that machine. You knew it was going to happen long before it ever got there. And if it was going to slip, you knew it was going to happen. So you grabbed the regulator, you eased it back, you opened your sands, reapplied the steam, try to keep your engine going, keep the momentum going. Because every time you lose your momentum, your load pulls you back and you're losing time. And that was what we were all up against, losing time. It's no good when you've been out on the booze the day before.
It's unparalleled to anything else you can feel. And it's unlimited power that you've got under your control. And you've got a sense of achievement when you can drive this train and run to time. You're pulling an excessive load, whether it's a passenger train, a mail or expresses, whether you're on a slow train or you're going like the bats out of hell. This engine will do it.
By 1907, traffic on Lithgow Zigzag had reached saturation point. Temporary improvements were made while plans for a new route were devised, the 10-tunnel deviation. After almost 41 years of service, on the 16th of October 1910, the Great Zigzag closed. Abandoned, its steel lines removed and scrapped, the old formation soon became overgrown.
Well, the 1920s was a wonderful period in my life because that's when I first went to Clarence and saw my much-loved Zigzag. We were met by the dray and the lovely big draft horses, and then we were taken along to the big house, and we couldn't wait to get down to the old station. And we played there happily for many, many hours. It gave us great joy. And then we'd head for our tunnel, and we'd get into the tunnel and get down to our black spots, and we'd get in the manholes and be frightening one another. And they were really wonderful holidays. The tunnel was our friend. It was a wonderful friend. And when the bushfires came, we'd all be shepherded down to the tunnel, and we'd stay there till the danger had passed. And then on very, very hot days, we'd only have to go just inside the tunnel, and it was cool and beautiful. And we'd stay there until the worst of the heat had gone, and then we'd go back up to the house. It was quite a wonderful experience. And it was a wonderful place for kids to have their Christmas holidays. Really wonderful. Another one of our wonderful memories of Clarence is the viaducts. And you'd see these after you were coming out of the big cutting. And there they'd be, the three of them. Beautiful. They'd be sort of stark but so lovely. And we'd walk onto the viaducts and we'd drape ourselves over them and look at the lovely view. And sometimes hoping that we'd see a train coming out of number 10 tunnel way down in the valley below. And then if it was raining, we'd just slide down under the viaducts and we'd stay there. And the viaducts would be our shelter until it cleared. They were wonderful. The sight of them with all that rock face around them is quite majestic. And we loved them, absolutely loved them. They're beautifully formed. They're so regular and smooth. But in 1941, we were up there again and we raced down to go into our tunnel and we weren't allowed. The military had barred the tunnel because it was full of ammunition. And we were horrified, and we told the military men this too, but they wouldn't let us go in. And then we went for a walk round the beautiful cuttings to Newens, and the military barred our way again. And the blessed things were full of army vehicles of all sorts and sizes, and right across the tops of the cuttings were slung enormous camouflage nets. And we were utterly horrified to think this part of the world had been spoilt by the war, and it was our special part of the world.
Abandoned once again, the area was placed under the control of a trust in 1947. Roads were slowly cleared, picnic areas and lookouts were established. The Zigzag remained a thoroughfare and popular picnic spot until 1975, when the sounds of the whistle echoed through the valley to a new generation. Zigzag was alive.
Warren Purchase at 900 2LT. Here is a 2LT local.
Yep, right.
During the late 60s, a group of young enthusiasts were eager to establish a tourist railway and preserve the romance and magic of steam for all time. Lithgow's Zigzag not only offered magnificent viaducts and spectacular mountain scenery, but was easily accessible from Sydney. 1971 saw the birth of the Zigzag Railway Cooperative.
Righto!
Like all good things, Zigzag Railway is formed by accident, mainly a motor car accident, where a couple of our foundation members were out chasing steam trains in South Australia because they were being scrubbed all around the country. They went to get some photos of 400 class Garretts, which had been put back into service in South Australia, and whilst chasing them, managed to roll their motor car and end up in hospital for 3 weeks.
While we were in hospital, this friend and I decided that we should try and do something to preserve the steam locomotives, and we both knew of the Zigzag and it held a fascination for us, and we agreed that that would be the ideal place to have a preserved railway. We first tried the New South Wales Railways for locomotives and rolling stock, but they had a policy of not providing any of this equipment to other than their own museum organisation. So from there we went interstate and we wrote to Queensland Railways, and they agreed that they could supply us with locomotives. And we then went on to the South Australian Railways, and they agreed that they could provide us with some passenger rolling stock when the new standard gauge line was opened.
We ended up buying 3 locomotives from Queensland. Before we took delivery, a 4th one became available, and we took delivery in 1975 of 3 DD-17 tank engines and the AC-16 tender engine.
One of the stumbling blocks, of course, was the zigzag trust that administered the reserve in which the zigzag railway formation was located. They seemed to think, I'm sure, that it was something of an impossible dream, this building a tourist railway. And they certainly put some obstacles in our road. But after years of negotiation and sometimes almost being in tears, eventually we came to an agreement to build the railway. Of course, one of the ironies of it all is now that the zigzag trust as such has gone, and the zigzag railway now administers the reserve.
We're right to go.
In late 75, we found out that 2 more locomotives were available in Queensland. One member brought out his bank book and said, I want that locomotive. He'd been talking about it for a while. It was the black locomotive, the C-17 number 934, which we run here now.
One of the interesting things about the zigzag railway is that we are a narrow gauge system in a standard gauge state. This was brought about by the fact that we had to buy our equipment from other states.
The first stage of the track was built by volunteer labour with some paid labour assisting, and this resulted in the first society train running in 1975.
When I first saw the train standing at the station, it looked like a toy train. It was wonderful, as I never thought I'd ever see a steam engine standing at the station to be going through our own lovely tunnel. And I was allowed to ride on the engine, and the fireman gave me his seat. And off we went. And it was terrific. We went through the big cuttings and into the tunnel. I was covered with soot, I was covered with smoke, and I loved every minute of it. We came out of the western exit and we went along through the big cutting, lovely big cutting, and then over the stone viaducts. And the scenery was beautiful, absolutely beautiful. I have to have a drink now.
After crossing number 1 viaduct, the train continues along Top Road to the first reversing station known as Top Points.
Ease up.
At Top Points, the locomotive uncouples, runs around on a second line, recouples and proceeds to the next level. Before the runaround line was added, engines drove into Top Points, then reversed down to the lower level.
Another part of the trip which interested me greatly was the reversal stations, and then after we saw this exercise we were lowered down to the next level And then this leads us down to what we call bottom points, which is the lowest part of the zigzag. Down at bottom points is a reversal station, and this gives the engine a lovely long drink, and then it enables it to start its big, long, heavy pull up the mountain. It goes up with tender first. There's smoke billowing madly from the engine trying to get up enough steam for the pull up on the upgrade. And the little engines are all so beautiful, and the carriages are spruced up, and they look grand.
We often reminisce about different things on the railway, but now that I'm up here at Zigzag, I like training the boys for the steam engines here. I've trained them all, every one of them, except from the senior ones, the real senior ones that come here that were drivers too before they came here. But I've been very proud of them. I've not had one failure.
That would be 100% accurate.
You could do that all there
Well,
with your finger.
yeah, but if you hold it. Excellent.
Now that I'm getting a bit long in the tooth, I confine myself to just essential training, and also to give my colleague here a hand with his carriage building. His knowledge and my brawn generally gets things done around the place.
Being a maintenance fitter on the Zigzag can be a very challenging position. You can be working on locomotives one day, carriages the next. You never know what the next day has in store for you. Primarily, I'm employed to work on locomotives, to do the running maintenance and some restoration. But carriages also need maintenance, and normally the underframe and bogies become my responsibility as well. We normally have 3 engines running at any one time, but the need for maintenance requires that sometimes they are pulled out for what we call a heavy overhaul, which reduces the fleet to 2. It's like a merry-go-round. As you repair one, another one needs to come in and have a similar attention to it. As well as myself and an apprentice to maintain the engines, there is also a staff of volunteer fitters, probably numbering 5 to 6, who assist us, and without their assistance the job would be impossible. We do what work we can here, but obviously with the size of some of the parts on these things, it's more cost effective to outshop them. The problem being here is finding somebody with the machinery and the know-how that can do the job and understand what they're working on. The technology that has been built into these things has unfortunately been lost. This might sound strange in this day and age, but it's a fact. And the skills involved in restoring and maintaining steam locomotives is rapidly diminishing.
Since 1975, 4 locomotives have been restored at Zigzag. Restoration of another 2 is well underway.
We've got the geriatrics, as they call us now.
That's right. Yeah.
Geriatrics. Fancy giving us that damn name.
Great
but
pair.
Anyhow, we do. We're restoring a carriage round there. They seem to be quite pleased with us, don't they?
Yes, yes.
We have here so many different kinds of carriages. I like the different styles of carriages, and some of our carriages are very, very old. And that's all part of the history of this place, and one of the things which I like doing is preserving the history here. And in working on these carriages, I have acquired a skill over the years which gives me a lot of pride, and I work out the colour schemes, and I now have got on to actually cutting colours by hand with artist brushes and painting the numbers and doing the letterings on the sides of the carriages. It's sort of something I've never had qualification to do, but it's a self-taught trade. There are so few of these old carriages left that are suitable for our operations here. Sometimes you've got to search the ends of the earth to find them.
When we came to the area, we noticed these railway carriages, and we had hoped that they'd be useful, but unfortunately they've been heavily vandalised. so the offer from the Zigzag Railway in Lithgow was quite welcome to recover whatever parts are usable. And what is more the pity is the detailed woodwork and some of the lovely cabinet work that was destroyed by unthinking young people who, out of frustration or boredom, whatever, got their kicks out of smashing up the trains.
We're going to use these carriages here as a supply of spare parts, doors, windows, handrails, handles, the gutters from the roofs, all the small metal parts that we're able to take off, some of the electrical equipment. They're all wooden construction side door carriages of a type that you never see again today.
This engine that we've got here now, the C17 934, there were over 200 of them, and they did everything in Queensland, from passenger trains to large freight trains, small shunting trips, suburban working, you name it, they did it. It's not my favourite one here. It goes all right, it steams a lot better, and all the firemen like it. It's a far better steamer than anything we've had here before, but to me it's not as comfortable as some of the other ones. Everything isn't laid out quite as well.
The blue locomotive, class DD-17, number 1047, was built at Ipswich workshops, primarily for use on the Brisbane suburban network. There were 12 locomotives of this class built, of which only 4 survive. 3 of these engines can be found at Zigzag. The green locomotive, BB 18 1/4, number 1072, was built at Walkers Limited at Maryborough. Primarily for use on express services and used extensively through Queensland, they were also the last class of locomotives built in Australia. Zigzag Railway operates on weekends, public and school holidays, with staff performing their duties on a voluntary basis. Only 3 people are employed full-time by the cooperative. The trains are crewed by drivers and firemen who are qualified by the New South Wales Government, and guards who undergo rigorous training to ensure capability in their important role.
All aboard, please. Thank you, folks.
Improvement and maintenance is ongoing, and most major work is carried out on weekdays. The cooperative attracts many young members who are keen to be part of the enthusiasm shared at Zigzag. Zigzag's success as a tourist railway is substantiated by the fact that it's carried more than 1 million passengers since its opening in 1975. Occasionally, to meet passenger demand, 2 trains are required to work the line simultaneously. And sometimes, just for fun, 2 engines will be coupled to the same train. In railway terminology, this is called double heading.
We were very house-proud of the cab of a steam locomotive in the old days, because this was our home for 8 hours. We'd wash all the handrails down, we would wash all the while have the brass shining, the gauge glasses so you can see your face in. All the tools like this oil feeder, we used to cover with kerosene, and all the tools, we'd put them on the floor and we'd hose them off with boiling water and put them all away. Clean our tray down here because we always kept a billy of tea there all the while there. Then we wash the handrails down, hose the floor, get it spotless, hose the coal so we wouldn't get any dust. Yeah, even clean our whistle cords like this. We didn't want anything to dirty us at all. Maybe we were queer, but we thought, well, why, just because you work on an engine, you don't have to get yourself filthy. Now, if any fitters, and we had to test for fitters at times, that used to get around with greasy gloves and real greasy overalls, and they'd get on your handrails, and they'd put your greasy overalls on your seat. They'd go off our brain.
Big thing was, I think, getting your mate to keep the coal wet. They had a deck hose there to hose the coal down, keep the floor damp, and a lot of us used to be able to keep reasonably clean. Some never tried. Oh, geez, they finished up black.
Good morning. It's 8:15, trains are on time, and if you're on one, this one's for you.
Being a stoker involves being willing to learn, being willing to practice. I rely very heavily on the driver's instruction. I don't come to zigzag often enough to become really skilled. The skill builds up each time. To understand the balance between the heat of the fire and the temperature of the water and making steam is still a mystery to me. Getting the coal evenly spread over the firebox is quite a knack. Some of my lumps of coal manage to get down to the front of the firebox, but sometimes it builds up too thickly in the wrong areas, and then John bails me out.
After a couple of years training, I finally managed to get my fireman's ticket. You know, firing a steam locomotive is really something different to anything I've ever experienced or had a go at before. A steam train's not like a diesel or a motor car or something like that where you just turn a key or press a button, press the accelerator and off you go. A steam train only goes as well as you fire it and manage to get it to go. Each loco here at Zigzag has got its own little differences. You've got to fire it slightly differently. You've got to learn what each of the locos are like and then do your job accordingly. You've got to work with the train.
It is a challenge when you get two of the drivers together. You'll try and take off and use as much steam as you can and see if you can wear the other bloke out. He does the same to you when he's having a drive and you're firing, or you're having a drive and he's firing. You can make the fireman's day an easy day or a hard day, but the fireman can make your day an easy day and a hard day. There's two of you on the engine and you've got to work as a team. Top road gives me a buzz more than middle road. And you've got 5 kilometres of track to run on rather than 1.5, and you've got to be on top of it. You've got to know what you're doing. Whereas when we first started here, we were running on middle road, which was only 1.5 kilometres. It didn't seem to matter what you did. If you had a good enough fire on at the bottom, you got to the top. Your locomotive might be in a bad way, but you then had half an hour before you got back down to the bottom again so you could recover and make enough steam. There's nowhere in it that you get a rest. You're constantly firing and trying to make steam for the whole of the 5 kilometres that you're travelling there. Running along the top, you've got to be good.
They're only as good as the knowledge and the ability of the men that work them. And if you know what you're up to and you've got the right weather conditions with you and the right coal, a good load on the train, you can have a fantastic trip. But if you've got crook coal and you've got a bad engine that needs repairs, the load's heavy, it's raining, everything's wrong with you, you can have a shocking trip. And then sometimes you think, I'll never get on one again. You hate them. The next time you love them. And then sometimes you'll go to an engine and you see, oh, you've got this one, it's a P-class. You could almost kiss it. They're an engineman's delight.
As a steam loco passes, everybody that looks at it invariably looks at the wheels going around and the movement of the motions. And I think that is the thing that most fascinates me. As a matter of fact, I might sound a little bit sentimental about it, but I really love the things. I really do.
You've got to treat them right, you've got to handle them carefully, you've got to kid them, to coax them, and in the end, if they won't do any good and they're contrary, you give them a good blasted kick and away they go. But there's just something about them. They are a challenge to a man, and it's just a hunk of steel that's alive. You can hear them, they sort of breathe, they chant. Now, when you're standing still and you've got the air fully charged throughout the train, you can hear the exhaust of the pump just going cha, cha.
Oh, they're really sensitive. They're great. And I love working on them. Oh, blimey.
Steam locomotives have always held a fascination for me, I'm told, since I was about 2 years of age. And this culminated in my working on the railways and becoming a locomotive inspector. And in this position, I've virtually travelled all over Australia with steam locomotives. They're fascinating things.
I was sorry to see the steam engines going out. The fascination of steam will never be captured by any other machine other than possibly the old sailing boats.
It's a great thrill to be here and to work my way up and eventually become a driver on the steam train here. It's not many places you can do that. To me, it's a big train set for big kids.
Now the honeymoon special and the Janolan Caves Express, the Northwest Mail, man, I need a rest. Walk around your corner, see, saw your own, left stock and bingo, and you